What's up, guys? It's Ray J back with another video. And in this one, I want to break down what's happening with Tesla SPY in the overall markets. I'm also going to talk about why on earth there's going to be a very big news coming out over the weekend, possibly involving the US government that could affect the way the market ends up moving. Not to mention new pieces of news for Tesla. But just know that I am not a financial planner, so take nothing I say as financial advice whatsoever. And also, if you guys can, please check out my Moomoo link. If you deposit $100, you're guaranteed 5 free stocks. If you deposit $1,000, you're guaranteed 15 in total. Not to mention 8.1% APY on uninvested cash. The offer ends in 11 days. Anyways, let's talk about the market right now. So Tesla was a little bit weak compared to the market. We saw SPY, Nvda, the QQQ, NQES, and etc. just continuing to run and run and run. But Tesla pumped a bit only to come back down and just ended up closing in the red. So why did this happen? What's going on with this? I'll talk about that first, and a very, very big piece of news. This is what the market looks like, by the way. So we had, like, once again, Nvidia, Apple, the majority of sectors in the green. Finance was green, health was green. But then we had Tesla in the red. It really just underperformed for once, and that's because we had this news. So why did this happen? Well, look at what the news is saying, okay? The news is screaming that Tesla recalls 700,000 vehicles over faulty tire pressure warnings. All right, that's what the headlines are saying. There's another headline right here. Tesla has its 15th recall of 2024, hitting 700,000 Cybertruck, Model 3, and Model Y owners. Not the best of news, blah, blah, blah. Again, look at Forbes. Tesla's latest recall affects 700,000 cars. Safety notices affect 2.7 million vehicles in 2024. So more negative news. But is this the truth? And the answer is not necessarily. Because here's what happened, okay? It is true that Tesla had an issue with the way in which tire pressures were being reported in their vehicles, okay? And does that affect 694 to 700,000 vehicles? Sure, it does. But is that the same thing as a conventional a conventional recall, excuse me? The answer is no, because all Tesla had to do is issue a software update, then the issue is fixed. So you have to remember that there's a lot of car companies out there like Hyundai, Ford, or etc. They have real recalls. Even Tesla could have them sometimes. That's when you have to bring the vehicle in. They have to replace parts, do something very serious like that. This is not like that. There's a big difference right here. They just do a software update, the issue is fixed. To me, it doesn't make sense to paint this as a recall. The mainstream media loves to paint any issues that Tesla has as recalls. That is not the same thing. I believe that this is not being painted properly by mainstream news, and I think that that's part of why Tesla saw a bit of a dip. With the media just screaming these things, that's why Tesla underperformed a bit, and that's not necessarily the truth. But because of the fact that Tesla has issued the software update already to fix the issue, and now they're going to be able to essentially, improve things right now. They're going to be trying to improve the way in which they give tire pressure warnings. I think that things should improve for Tesla now, and we're trying to hold our key support just to see how things end up going. Now, Tesla also had decent volume at 127 million, so volume is coming back. And there were a lot of option expirations for today for the whole market. That's why the market saw a short squeeze, but Tesla remained a little bit weaker. Tesla still has an outperform rating from Baird. That's a good piece of news for them. And then the price price ratio did come down a bit. Tesla did lose a little bit of strength for the last couple of days, but things could shift as time goes on. Mondays are historically green about 53% of the time for Tesla. So hopefully we see the same thing at least go on. And then at 11 o'clock a.m. and then 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, that's when we have more volatility typically. So we'll see how things end up going for Tesla. But just know this, there are some big pieces of news which Tesla's run may hinge upon. And that's going to be the first one right over here about what's happening with the spending bills. So in the U.S. government, the Congress has to pass a spending bill. That starts off at the House, then it passes to the Senate, then the U.S. president has to sign it, right? That's how power is balanced and such. But in this case, just know that if they don't get it out on time, there's going to be a governmental shutdown, which means that a lot of federal employees are not going to be paid for a while. The government's going to have to go through this whole situation. The last time this happened, there was a lot of fear about the government potentially getting a shutdown. That could be part of why the market also sold off. But here's the big but. The thing you have to remember is that what typically happens is Congress screams at each other. They fight, argue. And then all of a sudden, once we get close to the deadline, they come together and they sign the bill. That's what happened last time. That's what happened many, many times. And in this case, here's what happened. I think a little bit after the market closed, they were fighting over this bill, trying to get it together. And the House has finally voted to pass a spending bill. It was a 366 to 34 vote. And that is going to help avoid the government shutdown. So step one has been complete. The House has passed the bill. Now we have the Senate. The Senate now has to review this and they have to pass it forward as well. So they're in step two. Once the Senate gets it passed, Joe Biden will just basically sign it at that point. Like, there's no point in arguing at that point because it has to get done. So the main thing is now just let's get this past the Senate before the deadline. And then if that's the case, Joe Biden will sign the bill and then this is going to get passed. Once this is passed, that's going to be, quite good for the markets, quite good for the US economy and other factors like that. So to avoid complicated issues, we need to get this bill passed. The Senate is going to try to do it as soon as possible, hopefully over the next couple of hours. They're reviewing it right now, and once it's approved, Biden will sign it, and we'll be fine. The bill is going to keep the government funded through mid-March. It also claims it's going to be extending farm bill offers and other things like that, and also provide more aid for farmers when it comes to like disaster relief and such. So that's what they claim so far. There's more details to it. I'm not going to go over everything, but the main thing is let's get this bill passed. That's very important. So we'll see how it goes. If this is passed over the weekend or as soon as like today, and Biden signs it, that's going to be bullish. That could help the market push more. On top of that, we had some good news. The market had the PCE data. Everything was aligned with, if not below expectations, which tends to be bullish. Another sign that inflation is cooling. The numbers were decent, so not too bad. So that's what the Fed would have liked. The Fed does prefer PCE data, and that's why the market got a bounce. That's another big factor. And then going into next week, just note this. Monday is very quiet. There's not really much data coming out. Tuesday is very quiet as well. We just have some manufacturing numbers, very minor data. Wednesday is Christmas. The stock market is going to be closed. Thursday is minor data with initial jobless claims. Friday is very minor. And then the rest of the year is basically just minor. There's nothing too crazy coming out for the rest of the year in terms of data. And next week we have Christmas, so it's going to be a short week. Besides that, just know earnings are also going to be very, very chill. We just have like one piece of earnings on Monday, then everything else is just quiet. It's going to be like a holiday for earnings for like 2 weeks. And then earnings become very serious going on to like January 15th for Q4 earnings. That's going to be very important for the way the market continues to move. But until then, we just have 2 weeks of not really anything coming out. Besides that, the market still has some fear, but it's getting closer to neutral as it tries to bounce. It's going to try to get closer to neutral, if anything. Momentum is also trying to push here. We'll see if we get back to neutral on that. The put to call option ratio is going up as soon as people start buying more puts. As soon as the puts come back, right, all of a sudden the market starts to squeeze. So it just goes to show how the market makers are playing their game, especially because we had quadruple witching for it today. And then the VIX came down, but it has not lost its 50-daily moving average. This means that the VIX is not officially losing critical support to turn extremely bearish. It hasn't done that yet. So wait and see if that ends up being the case. Anyways, what do I see for next week now? I just want to focus on the charts. So Tesla was plagued with some bad news. The media was just attacking it. Okay, it is what it is. It happens. But what's good about Tesla is we have not lost our critical support. If we lose 420 and we can't close above it or hold above it, there's going to be a risk of us coming back down to 410 and eventually 402. If there's bad news, that's always a possibility. If we hold 420, we could attempt to rebound for 438. If we break that, we could be looking for a shift in structure. I want to say that we need to see if this low could hold going into next week, and Tesla should attempt to rebound. I do believe in the morning on Monday, it's going to try to rebound a bit with the markets, especially if we get the spending bill through. But then we'll see if Tesla could break 438 or not. Otherwise, we're just range bound. We've been in a range for the last couple of days. There was a small dip today only to get bought back up. So I think that Tesla will attempt to rebound in the morning, hitting like 437, come back down, kind of trade sideways. And we'll see if we try to bounce to try to get back up towards this imbalance around 456. So I'll be watching that very closely just to see what the move is going to be. For other factors out there, we have SPY. SPY is doing a good job, okay? Big green bar, we had tried to reverse right here. However, just know this. We'll be watching to see, do we make a lower high here and then bounce? Or do we end up losing the low here? So that's like the big thing that we're going to be watching for a change in market structure. So let me explain that. So what's happening is we had higher highs, higher lows, higher highs, higher lows before. Then, as of recent, ever since FOMC and Jerome Powell and the Fed announced that they're going to likely be keeping rates higher for longer for the next upcoming years and not cut as much as we initially suspected, that's what caused the market to dump alongside the fears involving the spending bill and the government shutdown and such. So now the trend shifted, right? We had a high here, came down with a lower high, lower low, but now we broke the high here. So this is a sign that we're going to try to reverse. In order for this to happen, you want to see this try to like make a higher low compared to this low here, make a higher low and start breaking out. If we break 595, we're looking for 598, then eventually the 600s. Okay, so that's going to be very important. We could kind of dip here and then try to break out higher. That's going to be very key for how SPY ends up moving. I believe that there's a good chance it's going to try to do this, but this is going to depend on if the Senate gets this passed. So hopefully they get this passed. They should get it passed before the deadline. Then Biden should sign this very, very soon. And then that's going to cause us to try to rebound. I think that there's a good chance we try to get back up to this imbalance. So if we break 595 next week, we're looking for essentially 599 and eventually the 600s. I think we may attempt to do that. We do favor that, but we'll see depending on the news. ES has the same exact setup essentially. We might dip a little bit towards the support at the 5980 area. And if we bounce off this, we could try to break out. If we lose the support, we could be dumping even lower, but I think it might dip and then try to rebound for higher levels into the 6,000s. But if anything, I just want to say that there is a chance this tries to reverse. I think ES most definitely has the potential to do this, and we'll give this more time that it needs. For other factors out there, we have Nvda. Now, this looks more bullish, but here's the thing about this, okay? We're technically hitting this resistance at the 1520 EMA is rejecting, hitting them rejecting, hitting them rejecting. But now we're trying to break here. We're trying to get back above our 200 EMA. This is showing some life. If we break past 136, we go up to 140 pretty easily. If we lose 132.96, we dump back down. This is favoring upside. It looks like it wants to try to break this. So this is the first time we're showing this much strength. So it depends on the bill. It also depends on if NVIDIA could break past 136. If so, we're looking for 140 next week, and I do see potential for that. So it is looking a bit more bullish to me. Bitcoin looks more bullish. We have an inverse head and shoulders like structure. As long as we don't lose 96,320, we're looking for essentially 99,412 as our potential targets. For others out there, we have, let me just double check this. The QQQ looks more bullish. As long as we don't lose our low, as long as we don't lose like 515, I think we could be trying to test 523. And if that breaks, we're looking for essentially a move closer to 530 plus. I see potential for us to try to reverse here, but we have to get back above 523 to break out. We'll see if that ends up being the case, but I see potential in the QQQ nonetheless. For NQ, same thing. We're trying to hold 21,492. If we hold that, we could attempt to reverse for 21,811. If that breaks, we'll be looking for the 22,000 range. So what could be happening is this could dip a bit to about the 21,500 area. And as long as we bounce, we could be looking for a rebound very, very nicely. For Apple, we look more bullish. We're making higher highs and higher lows. As long as we don't end up losing the support here at 253, we're looking for a move back up to 256 and 258. So there's more upside potential. For the IWM Russell 2000, we have potential to bounce here. We pushed all the way up to about 224, came back down towards 220, and we could try to bounce here for 225.87 or above. There's a good, there's a good chance we try to rebound here as long as we hold support. For Palantir, and I know a lot of people are asking about this. This looks quite bullish to me. As long as we hold above 80, I'm looking for 82 plus as our target. We could be breaking 82, so it looks bullish. Coinbase looks decent. As long as we don't lose 273, we're looking for essentially 290. Amazon looks decent, but we have to try to hold 225 and 223.8. As long as 223.8 does not break at the very least, we could attempt to push, and we could slowly make our way up to about 228, and eventually this imbalance for 230. For Meta, we have some upside potential. As long as we don't lose 586, we could slowly try to push it for 595 or so. So I see potential in this. But the thing about Meta is there's also like a downtrend. I forgot to mention that there's a bit of a downtrend. So I think we could attempt to rebound, but we'll have to see if we get a rejection or not to dip lower or not. This one's a little bit weaker than the other stocks, by the way, but there could be an attempt to rebound early next week. For Microsoft, this is tricky. So we're in a range between 442 and 430. Now, as long as we make a higher low here, as long as we don't lose this low, we could attempt to push for 442, then 444. It could be that the spending bill will affect how this moves as well, so this could try to bounce depending on that. And then Google looks more bullish. As long as we don't lose 192, this is favoring 197 or so. So it looks pretty good. With that being said, I'm not going to go over every single thing in this video, guys, because it is a Friday. I want to make this video a little bit shorter. I will talk more about something involving Tesla tomorrow, maybe like Elon Musk tweets or something. And then for Sunday, so keep in mind on Sunday, I will go over everything in a very, very comprehensive manner to talk about like AMD, NQ, and all the other stocks out there, and especially like Tesla. With that being said, I'm going to wait a little bit because I want to see what we get from this bill. Does the Senate pass it by tonight? And then does Biden end up signing it? If he does, that's going to be a nice catalyst. If they don't, and there is some kind of government shutdown, that could be a little bit more bearish and the market could turn down. So we'll see about that. For now, the charts look more promising. They do look like they favor upside, and hopefully we get this done with. Hopefully we don't have to go through more stress involving this. And eventually they have to basically continue, to pass this bill. It has to happen eventually. So hopefully it's done with, right? Hopefully that now that it passed the House, the Senate gets this done with as fast as possible and Biden signs it. And that's going to be very big for the markets. So we'll be waiting for that. I'll give you guys an update by tomorrow and also for Sunday. So we'll give it some time and we'll see how things end up going. So give the market some time. Be very patient for now, and we'll see how things go. Thank you for listening, guys. I'll be back very soon for another update, and peace out.